ve Gıda Etiği Derneği Target'in Korona Günleri Sanal Konferansları dizisine hoş geldiniz. Ben Berivan Alkaş. Derneğimiz adına bu konferanslar dizisinde size ev sahipliği yapacağım. Konferans dizisinin amacı Covid-19 salgınının yaşandığı günlerde tarım ve gıda sisteminde yaşananları değerlendirmeye çalışmak ve sistemin geleceğine dair düşünsel katkıda bulunmaktır. Bu sunumda UCLA Resnick Center Food Law and Policy Direktörü Sayın Profesör Doktor Michael Roberts, Covid-19 and US Food System başlığı altında bizimle görüşlerini paylaşacak. İyi seyirler dileriz.
Hello, my name is Michael Roberts. I am a law professor and the executive director of the Resnick Center for Food Law and Policy here at UCLA in Los Angeles, California. And I am pleased to be with you today to talk about a very important issue, and which accounts for the impact of COVID-19 on the U.S. food system and some of the issues that our law center here at UCLA are evaluating and carefully considering as we attempt to look for ways where the law can help improve responses to incredible disruptions like COVID-19. I am especially pleased to be with you today as I think about how this pandemic is affecting all countries at the same time. And it's a good reminder that we're all in this together. We may come from different countries, different backgrounds, different legal systems, but it should be a unifier, and we should be together and thinking about solutions together. And so I congratulate you on this invitation to me, and I hope that some of my remarks may be relevant to you and helpful as we think about these important issues. Surely COVID-19 has had a large impact on the food system here in the US as well as other countries. What I would like to do with you today is to share with you a PowerPoint that I have prepared, as well as a web library that we have developed here at UCLA, assessing the impact of COVID-19 on the food systems and its relation to law. So in order to do this, I'm going to now attempt to share my PowerPoint with you, assuming that this all works out well. Okay, let's start here at the beginning. So before I start, I would like to acknowledge and give thanks to Dr. Hillel Alver, who had just completed her service as a special rapporteur to the United Nations for Right to Food, and has been an integral part of our center here in Los Angeles. Dr. Alver, of course, is well known to you in her home country, and we're so proud to have shared her as well in the U.S., especially here in Los Angeles. While she served as special rapporteur, she also was kind enough to serve as the Global Distinguished Fellow here at UCLA for Food Law and Policy, and we're grateful for her service and for her presence. She was an inspiration to all of us on the faculty as well as to the students, and just the issues that she was involved in were really incredibly important as well as comprehensive, from food security to food justice to the role of women in farming to climate change to resiliency, and the list goes on and on. And so I just wanted to express gratitude to her and for this invitation that I have to speak to you, which actually came through her. Moving on to the center, I want to note for you our mission, which I think will help set a foundation for my remarks as we move along here. The center here at UCLA provides cutting-edge legal research and scholarship in food law and policy to improve the health and quality of life for humans and the planet. In accomplishing this mission, we have three activities that we are largely engaged in. We teach, we convene, we hold roundtables, conferences, and we publish books and articles. And in all of these activities, our focus, of course, is on food systems, both here in the United States as well as global. And of course, we we pause and we think when a large event occurs that brings into question the stability of these food systems. And of course, here in the United States, like in Turkey and other countries around the world, COVID-19 has had a significant impact and has posed incredible challenges to the food system. We've experienced, for example, reading in the news, watching on the news as pig farmers slaughter hogs because of a lack of market. We also see hunger, which is ironic given the fact that our farmers are destroying food products, but hunger that exists both in urban communities as well as in rural areas, and especially afflicting people who are already susceptible to hunger. We've seen challenges for food workers, folks who work in food plants and manufacturing facilities, food manufacturing facilities, to their safety and to their ability to carry out their duties. And all of these challenges caused us to think and to wonder how at the center at UCLA we could help in assessing how the food system can better respond to disruptions like COVID-19. Our initial response was to come up with a library guide and put together a sophisticated guide that would help scholars as well as policy officials be able to navigate through all of the information and data with respect to food systems. I am going to now attempt to share with you this library guide and hope that it comes up. Let's see here. Okay, I am now going to attempt this one more time. Here we go. This is the first time I've actually worked Zoom with a PowerPoint and the internet at the same time, so forgive me for my clumsiness. This library guide, as you can see now on the screen, is a part of our law library's efforts to work with us in putting together this research source. And my point isn't to go through this guide, but simply to impress upon you the scope of information that we can gather with respect to COVID-19 and food systems thinking as we deal with the food supply, from labeling, safety, security, supply chains, food in the economy, labor, international, children, diet and health, and so on and so forth. This is an enormous effort and one that speaks to the complexities of the food supply system. In returning to the PowerPoint now, in putting together this guide, there were two observations that I think stood out for myself and my staff in terms of the effects of COVID-19. One is that there are two features of the US food system that were exacerbated through COVID-19, or that created problems that were exacerbated by COVID-19. One is consolidation, and two is fragmentation. Both features of the US food regulatory system that have profound consequences. And as we have especially seen through COVID-19, these consequences include consequences that evolve around food justice, the concept of food justice, which mean that folks here have suffered from, as in other countries, from hunger, deprivation, and inequality as it relates to food and its distribution. Secondly, a second consequence is what we would call ethical challenges. And probably most pronounced is that of human labor. What are the ethics? What's the moral construct in asking food workers to put their lives on the line in order to feed a nation? Especially when we don't protect those workers and expect them to assume all of the risk in a food system whereby companies are insulated or immunized from any liability at all, thanks to an executive order issued by President Trump that we'll talk about in just a minute. So with these two observations, we've decided as a center to assess consolidation. And to do this, I think it's important to recognize that in the United States, that again, the scale of COVID-19 has been unprecedented. But this massive supply chain disruption certainly should not have been unforeseeable. Our food supply in the US is uniquely and critically vulnerable because of consolidation that has been going on over a few decades. So for example, in regard to meat, only about 50% of the processing plants and slaughter and process over 98% of the beef in the United States. One cooperative controls 30% of the raw milk in the United States. This consolidation, which has increased since the 1980s, is the result of deliberate policy decisions, including the loosening of antitrust restrictions on food businesses and farms, for example. So what we intend to do here at UCLA is to contemplate putting together a white paper that describes the history of this consolidation and recommending policy solutions. A second idea for us that we intend to explore has to do with what I would call the idea of an Emergency Food Preparedness Act or Food Security Act or plan. Again, to set the foundation here, regulating food in the United States in normal times is a complicated patchwork of federal and state laws. 15 federal agencies have emerged with regulatory responsibilities over food per some 30 major food statutes. These laws and legal institutions that administer these laws have often had to step up to address unique issues in times of distress, such as major food safety outbreaks, climate change, and pandemics like the avian influenza. COVID-19 has now added a whole new dimension of confusion, highlighted, for example, by the White House's executive order that granted immunity to meatpacking plants for claims by employees who allege unsafe work environment, raising questions about inequalities and fairness. So we're interested in putting together a white paper that recommends such an act or a plan that would help the United States prepare for severe disruptions by an organization or committee, could be a food disaster czar or a disaster committee comprised of experts from leading food regulation agencies, for example, that would implement pre-planned steps to achieve cooperation amongst the governing agencies and to protect those who are most vulnerable and susceptible to hunger and suffering. The plan would recommend government approaches to host a number of food matters, including food worker protection, price gouging, food waste, distribution of food to food banks, which then deliver food to those who suffer from hunger, farmers markets, which are local gatherings for local communities to purchase produce and other food products from local producers, children and school food programs, which in the United States feed a surprisingly large amount of our children healthy food. Retailers and restaurants, especially restaurants, which have suffered immensely under COVID-19 closures. And of course, food safety and even food storage as we think about proper planning for these kinds of disasters. So certainly, as we think about the rule of law and the way that we govern institutions, it's important that we have a strong foundation and a deliberate, methodic way of addressing issues that, if we don't address, end up creating serious food justice and ethical questions. And if we follow this course, we hope that we won't have to face the question of whether we ask food workers to put their lives on the lines, especially in low-paying jobs, and many of whom have nowhere else to go or to work, to suffer immensely, including even death, for the purpose of helping to feed the United States and the world. So these issues are important, and I'm grateful for an opportunity to share these with you, and hope that you might think as well how your legal institutions might be better prepared for such a disruption, especially with respect to the food supply system. So I wish you well and good health, and hope that you all are safe and take care of yourselves and maintain proper social distance and following the counsel of health officials. Thank you. Bye-bye.